Hi, everybody. I'm Rainbow, and welcome to Dimensional Walking. Today's going to be a quick video. What I thought I would do is give you an update on some of the paranormal stuff that has happened here on the compound. Now, for those of you who watch a lot of videos and think that a lot of paranormal activity happens day in and day out, 24 hours a day or whatever, I'm here to tell you that it's much more boring than that. It just doesn't happen. And you can go for months without anything happening, and then all of a sudden something will happen. And there's no rhyme or reason for it. It just does. So, pretty much, there's been a couple things that have happened here, but not a lot. I mean, I was hoping that once we kind of moved out into the woods and we'd have a little bit more of the paranormal activity that you associate with being out in the forest, and we haven't had as much as I thought we would. Doesn't mean we won't in the future, but for right now, we haven't. So the first thing that happened, and this was just a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was a little less than that, is I was going for a walk around the barn area. It's a good walk because it's a massive barn. And I walk around the barn probably 4 or 5 times, and I try to make it a mile or a little over a mile walk so I can get my exercise in, and I end in the evening. And usually I've been going out about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And this one particular night, I was walking around the barn probably the second time around, and I heard Michael talking to another guy down by the pump house. Now, a few days before that, we had a pump guy come out and explain things to Michael about the water filtration and all the stuff that you need to know when you live um, eh, on a piece of property that has a well. And so they had done their talking, and Michael learned a lot, and we are having stuff tested. So, anyways, long story short, that's done. So I hear them talking, and I'm thinking, well, there's no guy here who there's no van. The pump guy's not anywhere around, and I could have swore that Michael was inside our uh, small apartment sized upstairs. And I'm like, okay, well, that's odd. And as I'm walking, it's getting louder, and I noticed something that was a little off. It seemed like the same voice doing two different voices. And I know that sounds very odd, but what I think happened is that there was an entity, and I've always felt there was something living by the pump house that mimics people. And so Michael and this guy got to talking about the paranormal because Michael will talk about the paranormal to everybody. And the guy had stories, and they were gabbing with each other, talking about different stories. And so, whatever this was down by the pump house, had heard them talk and was mimicking them, the conversation that they had. Now, when I went down further, there's a cutoff to a road that goes to the pump house. And so as I went by that road, the voices got louder. But I knew something was off because it wasn't quite right. And I know that there's people who have been out in the woods who've stated that they heard a male or a female either scream or talk or yell for help, but it wasn't quite right. There was something about the vocal cords that just didn't quite sound human. So I knew that whatever I was listening to wasn't Michael, and I knew that the guy wasn't obviously here. He wouldn't be here at 9 o'clock at night. And then I got concerned because it was around 9 o'clock and I was by myself, and I thought, wow, because I had first thought, oh, well, he's down there and maybe there's somebody else with him. And I was going to walk to the pump house to see if he was there. But then that feeling inside me said, stop, don't go do that. And I believe that whatever this was, a mimic entity, tried to entice me to go down to the pump house with me thinking that it was Michael. And that's a little scary to think about. But the thing that I want you guys to realize is that that's probably what happens to a lot of people out in the woods, and we're out in the woods. And even though you may live on a compound or on your property, an area where you feel safe, on the outer rims, there's always something around that is going to be living there, whether it be an entity, a shadow person, a cryptid, an animal, it could be any of that, right? So when I finished my walk, I went back to the barn and I saw Michael there. And I said, "You won't believe this. I just thought you were down by the pump house." And he said, "No." And so we both kind of realized that there probably was something there mimicking him and this guy's conversation, trying to entice me to the pump house. And before this ever happened, Michael and I have always felt that there was something living by the pump house, some kind of entity. I don't think it's a shadow person. I believe it's some type of entity that was trying to get me to go over there. Another time that I was walking and I actually had decided, well, I'm going to walk towards the pump house, but this is during daylight. This wasn't, and it was still daylight when this happened at 9 o'clock. But I went probably for a walk at around 4:30, 5 o'clock another time, and this is before this incident happened. And when I was walking towards the pump house, something was in the brush that is over by we have a couple structures that are by the pump house, and it was making a lot of noise and it was coming towards me. And granted, it could have been a bobcat. I don't think it was a cougar. I'm pretty sure it wasn't. Or it could have been, something else, maybe a skunk or maybe a possum or whatever. I don't know if we have possum out here, but probably something else. It could have been, but it was on all fours and it was big and it was coming towards me. And so I turned around and I just walked back up because I'm still healing from my surgery on my leg. And so that was disconcerting. But that's not the only time that's ever happened. It's happened other times, but it's more disconcerting when you're by yourself. Now, this next incident happened when we weren't home, but it was within the area of where we live. And it just happened just about 3 or 4 days ago. Michael and I were driving back from doing errands in town, and on the road to where we live, there's quite a few beautiful homes on either side, big pasture land, just forest, and it's just gorgeous. And Michael had slowed down around this one curve because he thought he had seen a dog. And I'm turning and I look to the right of me and I see a woman in pigtails and a hat, very oddly dressed. And so what she did was something very strange. She turned around and just it was a very slow turn and just looked at me and I saw black eyes. And I'm yelling at Michael to go because I saw this woman who had black eyes and he's mad at me because he thinks I'm trying to co-drive, side seat drive, I guess is the term. And I wasn't. I really was very distraught over seeing this woman because of the way she was looking at me. And I went, oh, no. I thought she probably, if she's a black eyed person, she probably will know where we live. And so when we got home, I eventually told him what I had seen, and he finally understood. He just thought I was just being a side seat driver, and he got all mad at me. But at the end of the day, when you see something like that, that you're just going to get into panic mode. And even as brave as I think I am, that was very disturbing to me to see. And it was just the look on her face, the intent look on her face, it was almost like a crazy look on her face. And just think of a crazy person with black eyes. And that's kind of what I saw. And so that night, I told Michael, I said, I'm very concerned about her knowing where we live. Fortunately, she didn't I didn't sense anything that night, but I was very leery of her coming around and hanging and looking in the windows because that's what the black-eyed people like to do. Though they like to look in windows outside of knocking on the doors. They like to peer in, kind of like peeping toms. Now we also have some shadow people out here, but these shadow people aren't the creepy type. And maybe it was also, I made it very clear that I don't tolerate any of these kind of entities or beings. I don't tolerate them where I live. My space is my sanctuary. And so I just don't like these things. And I will fight and get them out. I mean, that's just we should always do that wherever we live. I mean, that's our if we live there, that's our sanctuary. We should be able to be at peace where we live. So these shadow beings, they I noticed something very strange about them out here. They run in groups. So if you're out in the barn, on the inside barn, like where the in the arena where they used to train horses, you will hear multiple people talking, but it's not like something that you can you can understand. It's like a like that. And you're hearing groups of people and like three, four, or five people. And you know that there's someone in the distant corner, but you can't quite see them. So I know that these types of shadow beings that are out here are more observing. I think they understand where we come from, where it's just like, don't bother us. I don't have much uh, engagement with shadow people because I think that's dangerous. If you try to communicate with them, that's an open invitation for them to come into your home and come even into your car, and you don't want that. So with these guys, I just let them know they got to stay where they're at. That I don't have anything against them. Because I truly believe that I don't understand enough about shadow people, different entities that are out there to know if they have a right to be the area where I'm at. I think that as humans we tend to hog the space. And I don't want to be one of those people where I have to hog the space where I live, but where I am living, I just don't want them in my my intimate space. I can share the surrounding area, but I just don't want them like right where I'm living. And I made that very clear to them. So these shadow beings travel in groups, and I did see one of them. I mentioned this in a past video where it crossed the window, but really fast. Not like what a regular human would do, where, if even if we were running, this was just like like just right across the window. And so that's probably because they have different set of rules according to how they exist, even though they exist in this reality. So I don't think our reality that we know everything about it. I think that as human beings, we're still learning about everything. So no more UFOs. I did have three sightings of UFOs. I had one very close encounter over the ridge over by a large group of beautiful. I think they're Douglas firs. But outside of that, I keep looking though. I keep looking, but nothing more on that end. So, and Michael has three cameras out. We're looking constantly to see what we can find. We're getting a lot of elk footage and deer. In fact, I went out for my walk 2 days ago and I walked around the corner and there was this gigantic buck right there standing looking at me. And I was like, oh my God, because I worked cattle for many years and I'm thinking, oh crap, there's nothing between him and me. So I just stood there and backed away and gave him his space. And then he turned around and he walked off. But that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. But as far as cryptid stuff, which we're really trying to see if we can find any here, I don't know if we're going to get anything because, we're in an area where there are, a good amount of humans. So it just may be that one catch of a lifetime, which takes months or years to get. So for those of you who think that all these videos out that, it happens all the time, it just doesn't. There's probably people who go deep into the woods who have the perfect, this is the perfect timing to capture these things. But here, when you're at your home and you're waiting around, it doesn't always happen that way. So, anyways, that's it for now. I hope that you can see that we're still looking into the paranormal here on the compound, but outside of what I just told you, nothing else has been happening. So, if you have any experiences where you live, feel free to comment below and tell us your story. I always love good ghost stories. So, thank you for watching this video. I hope you're all doing wonderful and well this summer. And I guess hopefully I will see you in the next video. So take care and have a fantastic, let's see, what is today? Today is Sunday. Have a fantastic week. Bye bye.